Good evening, good evening, good evening. I am Jacqueline Harrison, your host for A Queens Roundtable Quarterly Symposium. And this is the second to last day. The second to last day. So this is I have two awesome speakers tonight, all right, that are going to bring it. So I hope you are ready. I hope you are ready. I cannot stress that enough. So again, A Queens Roundtable Quarterly Symposium happens in January, May, and September. Hence the word quarterly, right? And we are dedicated to providing African American women entrepreneurs with personal, professional, and leadership development to allow you to scale your business, right? To actually begin to create the life and the business that you truly desire. So again, I'm your host, Jacqueline Harrison, and without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and let my special guest introduce herself and basically provide you with quality personal and professional and leadership training. All right.
Greetings, everyone. How is everyone on this Memorial Day weekend, first holiday of the summer? Sort of to kick it off. So hopefully folks are tuned in. I just want to give honor and thank Jacqueline Harris for having me part of the Queen's Symposium, such an important quarterly event that inspires and uplifts women. So I am just so honored to be here with you tonight. Again, I am Jacqueline Lulu Brown. I'm fondly known as Lulu, named after the endearing yet mischievous cartoon character Little Lulu for the baby boomers out there. And I received that name because I was the child that was noisy, always doing the opposite of what everyone else was doing, colored outside the lines. To this day, believe it or not, I do not color inside the lines. And just being very eccentric and different. So that's how I got and received that name. But tonight, what I want to talk to you a little bit about is I want to talk about addictions. And for us to be truly in that limitless place that we desire to go to in our business, in our careers, to be those really front runner leaders, to be operating in our power, we have to always make sure that, one, we're being authentic. And it's very hard to remain authentic. Who you are at your core is what I mean by that. Who God, your creator, really created you to be. Sometimes it's a little difficult to operate in that lane consistently because sometimes we just have those things that are in our lives that we keep hidden from the light of day and we don't talk about them. They are unsaid. We should talk about them, but we don't. So I'm going to try to keep this really upbeat, but I'm going to be super honest with you. I am one of those women empowerment consultants and coaches that I talk about the stuff that we don't really want to talk about. So there's no indictment and no condemnation. It is just enlightenment, just to give you something to think about and to help you to elevate and ascend to your next level. So let's just get started here a little bit tonight. And when we talk about addictions have a root. And we can often be successful in our career, in our home life, in our ministries, in our businesses, but we haven't quite reached our, I'll say, zone of genius, that divine genius. There's showing up in excellence, and then there's showing up in your genius. And there is a difference. Think about when you go to school and you graduate college and you are taking off in your career or maybe in your business, and you are showing up in excellence every day, all day. And you're successful because you're showing up in excellence. But your excellence zone isn't always your zone of genius, because your zone of genius, that is where you tap into your limitless self. And I often say, there is no sky and there are no limits except the ones we set for ourselves. There's a cliche that says the sky is the limit. But we have to be careful with our language, because who said the sky is the limit? There really is no sky and no limits to what we can achieve. And I am speaking to my Queen sisters out there tonight, because this is the Queen's Symposium. So now let's talk about how that ties into addictions. Sometimes when there are addictions in our lives that are sort of hindering us a little bit, they don't prevent us from necessarily being successful. They don't necessarily prevent us from operating in excellence. But believe you me, they do hinder us from showing up fully and in full power of our genius. And that's because a lot of times there is a root to these addictions. I'm going to give you one that is extremely simple. The addiction, a lot of times, let me say this, a lot of times we are thinking about addictions from the perspective of, well, I'm not an alcoholic, I'm not addicted to drugs, I'm not addicted to opioids. We think of those things, but there are other addictions. And believe you me, if those addictions go unchecked, and if we don't know what those addictions are at the root, and we don't deal with them at the root, further, if we don't even understand how to identify those addictions, then they just continue. And believe it or not, they do hinder us from going to those higher heights and those deeper depths and ascending to our very highest self, where there are no limits. That piece right there, that's what sometimes those things will do. And more importantly, when we are not telling ourselves the truth about the addictions that we have. So I'm going to give you some very simple ones that can sometimes hinder us in ways that we really don't recognize. I'm a recovered emotional eater, and I was addicted to just going for food. Food was, I don't know, you could say a cigarette for me. I've never smoked, but food was, the equivalent of that nicotine rush that sometimes we look for. Food was my comfort. It was my comfort zone, but it wasn't healthy food. It was those really unhealthy, fattening foods. And I'll tell you how it did interfere with me ascending to my highest level and my highest self, and how I had to identify that addiction to food at its root. So here's how it hinders, and this is how it hindered me. When you're not eating healthy, and you have any type of addiction, food is no different than nicotine or opioids or cocaine or any other addiction that we don't want to talk about. And what happens is food, like anything else, it begins to break down and destroy the body. It begins to induce a lot of inflammation. If it's really bad food, you can have high blood pressure, heart condition. In my case, I was so stressed out and I was addicted to food. I found myself on a stretcher being wheeled into a hospital with people looking down in my face telling me, you're having a stroke. And me trying to argue with them that I wasn't having a stroke. But guess what? I really was, because I couldn't speak and I couldn't talk. And when I think back and I look at the habits that I had, now, when this happened, I was at like the peak of my career. I had the great job. I was doing great ministry work. My career was taking off. I was doing what I'm doing now in my business. I was doing all those things and very, very successful with it, traveling all over the world, great salary, great family, husband, home. What do they say? Car, shoes, and bags to match. None of that made any difference, because you want to know what that is? That's what this world's system deems to be success. That's what the world tells us success is. But that's not really success. Real success is when we are operating from the essence of who we are, from our core. And in order to do that, we can't have things that we're letting interfere. So food was my drug of choice. Now, how do you go in and identify that? Because there is a root to the cause of everything that we do. Before I go to the root, let's talk about maybe a few more addictions. Let's talk about shopping. Anybody out there had a shopping addiction? Well, why does having a shopping addiction, why does that cause you to not reach your highest self or ascend to your highest level? Why does that happen? Well, for one, shopping addictions will run their course. It will get to a point to where you will begin to run through money, and then you'll begin, it's like with anything else, it's not something that is always sustainable. And then what does that do? Then that brings on stress. Now you've got a lot more bills, you're dealing with a lot of other things, and you're constantly chasing that rush that you get when you buy something. The same rush you get when you overindulge, I'll say, in those favorite comfort foods. They're addictions, and they have a root. Sometimes we are addicted to being someone's savior. Codependency on steroids. Yeah, we've got our Batwoman, our Superwoman, our Wonder Woman cape on, and we are running around. We are literally addicted to saving everyone else while we perish. That's an addiction. When we feel the need to fix everything, to fix everyone, and sometimes neglect our own selves. That's an addiction. And there's a root to that addiction. So let's keep it moving a little bit. How do we really identify the root of those addictions? Because here's the just flat out truth. Whether we're addicted to bad relationships, whether we are addicted to overeating or shopping or whatever that vice might be. And again, this isn't condemnation. This is not to denigrate anyone. This is the real truth of seeing and understanding where we are and where we can be. We can be in an extremely successful place. But is that success defined by this world? Is that a matrix mindset success? The box that we've all been sort of molded in and put into that says, this is the definition of success. You did these things and you check all those boxes. Or are we operating in our limitless self? Are we fully tapping in to our genius zone, where we are the most powerful beings, these creations that are here to do so much more than we probably have imagined, and to achieve more and to make a greater impact? Because guess what? It's all there. It's there already. We just have to make sure that as we are elevating, we just have to make sure that we are constantly going here, and we're not just here and we're like, okay, well, I'm doing fine. I'm doing great. The world says I'm doing great. So let's talk about identifying the root, because when we don't understand the root of those addictions, the cycle repeats itself over and over again. We go from one bad relationship to the next bad relationship, or one bad marriage to the next bad marriage, Our relationships in our business, we don't seem to be able to sustain them. Our relationships with others, whether it's girlfriends, whether it's our sister queens, we don't seem to be able to sustain long-term, lasting, fulfilling relationships. Now, all relationships are not good. Some we need to walk away from. But sometimes we find ourselves addicted to always going after those relationships where we're trying to save someone. We're trying to fix their life. And realistically, there's a root within us that we need to fix within ourselves. So it's going and finding what that root is. And we start that by just asking ourselves, what are the things what are the emotions? What are the satisfactions that we feel when we are in full bloom of the addiction? What does that look like and feel like? And writing those things out. Writing out those things of, why do I always feel like I have to go and find a mate that needs to be fixed? There's always something wrong. He either doesn't have a job, and I'm not saying that, this is not to indict the people and who they choose in the relationship. But the question is one of your roots, think about what your root is. Are you getting satisfaction? Are you getting fulfillment from being the savior in a relationship? Even though we may tell ourselves, nah, that's not it. But what does our behavior say? Because we can say one thing to ourselves, but our actions are something totally, totally different. Are we addicted to being in relationships where we are the dominant power? We have to be the smartest person in the room. We have to be the one that's always in charge. Are we uncomfortable with not being the smartest person in the room? Are we uncomfortable with being the least smartest person in the room to learn something from everyone else that's in the room? Are we comfortable or uncomfortable with that? Are we constantly finding that the relationships that we go for, and whether that's friends, whether that is a mate, but are we finding that we are addicted to relationships that consistently need something from us where we're not getting anything in return? Then, if the answer to that, and I'm using that as an example, if the answer to that is, well, yeah, sometimes, well, then what's the root of that? Is there a need for us to be accepted all the time? Are we comfortable with who we are? Are we comfortable with who we are at our essence? That's the authentic part that I'm referring to when I say authentic. It's easy to say, well, I'm authentic. There's nothing fake or phony about me. And we can, check off all those things on the list. But authenticity is not just being comfortable with saying what it is that's on your mind, or saying what you feel in a given moment. Authenticity is, first of all, knowing who you are. How could you be authentic if you don't know who you are at your essence, at your core? And I'm talking about, for our queens out there, I'm talking about who you are at the divineness from the creator. I'm talking about that part right there. Do you know? Do you know who you are, queen? Do you know how great you are? Do you know what your purpose is? Do you know what your destiny is? Because you have to know those things in order for you to show up authentically from your core. So those are some of the things when we're looking at what the root. Are we comfortable with who we are? Or are we sort of masking who we truly are because we don't want those things to see the day of light? And then we're being this superhero. We're out there, and there's nothing wrong with going out and being someone that is making an impact in the world. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. I love the greatest joy of what I do is making an impact in women's lives. But the other greatest joy is making sure that I am always operating from the core and the essence of who I'm meant to be, so that my genius and my brilliance and all of my gifting is coming forth, and that I am making an impact on others, helping to set others free, but making sure that I'm free. I have to be free first. So when we take a look at those things, let me ask another question for you to think about. And this is just things to think about, to say, gee, do I have any type of addiction? Maybe it's not shopping. Maybe it's not overeating. Maybe it's not relationships. Are you addicted to always having to be right? Always. You always have to be right. Why is that? There's a root to that. And understanding, well, what is it that I feel I can't listen to others? Because if we are to be these powerful queens in our business, if we are to be these powerful leaders, we first have to be willing to look at what it is that we may not have learned. There's always something that we can learn. We have to be teachable. A good teacher and a good leader is always someone with a teachable spirit and a spirit of learning. And sometimes that learning is not just from picking up a book, not from reading something. A lot of times that is from learning from someone else. We don't need to be ashamed of learning something from someone else. It's okay for us not to know everything, because at the end of the day, if we're honest with ourselves, we're really not. So just some food for thought. Are we addicted to being right? Because if we're addicted to being right, your success will be limited. If no one can ever tell us anything, or if we esteem people in a certain level. So I may say, well, this individual can't tell me anything because they're not at my level. I'm above them. If we have that type of attitude, then that is something that is going to hinder us. And there's a root to that. So being addicted to always being right, or having these, I'll say, areas where we're not teachable by certain people, we just have to be right all the time, that will be a hindrance. The best leader is someone that leads by example. And being teachable is one of the great ways of leading by example. I don't want to wear anyone's patience tonight. So I am going to sort of wrap up with this. Take an inventory and look to see if there is anything that you are doing on a consistent basis that, one, does not bring you joy, that doesn't enable you to operate in what I call ease and flow and peace. Look for those things. Is there anything that you can look and say, well, I keep staying attached or involved in this, but it doesn't bring me ease. It doesn't bring me joy. I'm not flowing the way that I know I should be. And I'm just not getting what it is that I need, but yet I keep doing it. Identify that. And then ask yourself, why? Take time to say, okay, why? Are we addicted to people's approval? And here's how that hinders us. We're always chasing and looking to perfect. We have that. We're on type A++ on steroids all the time. because we just want someone to consistently tell us how great we are. Where it literally, we have to hear it. That's a type of addiction. Notice and ask yourself, when you complete something, it may be a presentation. How many people do you call to ask, what do you think? How did I do? Do you just ask for some feedback so that you can improve yourself? Because we all want to do that. Hey, what did you think about my talk? So tell me what your thoughts were. What were your takeaways? Is it that conversation? Or are we constantly, so what do you think? So was it, what tell me more? And you're just kind of pressing because you want, and you're doing that with multiple people because you just have to hear that validation. Are you addicted to validation? Identify those things that you constantly feel a need for. And is it giving you that rush and that thrill like a cigarette would, or something else? Or are you genuinely just kind of wanting to improve yourself? Only you can answer that. But here's the key when we are dealing with addictions. When we are dealing with all of these different types of addictions that do hinder us, what tends to happen is we lie to ourselves. Again, I didn't say this was going to be great. I wish, let me just interject this. I wish I had the happy message that everyone's like, yes, hear you roar. I do have those messages. I do teach those in the Ascension Academy. But we go and do the hard work first. So a lot of times I say, why do I have to have that message? But that's my gifting and my genius. And that's who my creator made me to be authentically. Because I teach the blueprint that I have literally gone through. So having said that, sometimes we tend to not be truthful with ourselves. We tend to convince ourselves of some untruths. And that's literally lying to yourself. And here's the rub in that. You can lie to others, and they may not know that you're lying to them. But when you lie to yourself and you have the capability to believe that, or if you say, oh, I'm nope, that's not me, I'm fine. So do some soul searching to ask yourself, do I have any of these things in my life? Because at the end of the day, in order for us to be more powerful, more successful, that comes from our genius zone, that kind of atmosphere shifting success. When you walk into the room and people are like, wow, did you feel that? And it's a good thing, because that's the power that's operating in you. It's in you. It's there. Sometimes we just need to dig a little deeper, because we can always go higher. We can always go deeper. I'm going to repeat this. There is no sky and there are no limits except the ones that we set for ourselves. So I ask you to think about those things. Start journaling on those things. Start meditating on those things. This is a seed of power that will take you to a whole nother level. I promise you that. If you just start to tap in at a deeper level, start to meditate. And while you're meditating, have your journal handy. Start to write down, is there anything that I'm doing over and over and over again out of a need versus I'm doing it because it's just something that I'm destined to do? And do that across your relationships. And that's your relationships with partners, husbands, boyfriends, girlfriends. That's your relationships with your fellow sister queens, your relationships in your career, on your jobs, in your businesses, and in your ministry. Whatever it is, start to take that inventory to look to see, are you doing anything, no matter what it is, out of a need that is a dependent need? Oh, I just got to do this. Oh, well, when I'm upset, I just got to go shopping because I'm going to get that rush from going and buying that new pair of shoes. Or I just got to go and fix everybody else's life. I just can't help myself. I just jump in head first. I got the answer for everything. I absolutely have to be the smartest person in every room. I can't go into any other room unless I'm the smartest person in the room. I have that need. I have to have that. Start to ask yourself those questions. Journal about it. Meditate about it. And let the inner whisperings of your heart speak back to you. I appreciate you being here tonight, especially on this holiday weekend. Again, a huge shout out to Jacqueline Harris for allowing us this space to just share. I have enjoyed all of my other sister queens that have been on so far, and I trust that you will take something away from what I have said tonight. Now, if you would like to know more about Lulu and Revolution Ascension, you can find me right here on Facebook. Our business page is Revolution Ascension. We do have 2 private groups. Those are for the Ascension Academy attendees and some of our one-on-one clients. So when you look on Facebook, you want to select the one and it'll say coaching. But go to our Revolution Ascension Facebook business page. You can always reach out to me on my personal page. But if you go to our business page, you can get a free 30-minute consultation. And it's a real consultation. I will send you a form. I will ask you to fill it out because why? I want you to get the most out of that 30 minutes. It's not for, me to say, oh, I'm going to take 30 minutes to sell you on something. No, I really want to see our sister queens excel and ascend to that place that they may not have even imagined is there. I want them to go from excellence to divine genius to genius on steroids so that they are ascending to their highest level. So it is a true consultation. It's 30 minutes. And all you need to do is click on the book button on our Facebook page. And on our business Facebook page, you'll be able to select an open date and time. And when you receive the form, please make sure that you fill it out so that we can get the most out of that session. Also, if you would like, you will see that our global Women's Empowerment Retreat in Dubai in March of 2022. We relaunched in March, and that gives you an entire year to pay for it. We did not cancel because COVID hit in 2020. We are now going to have it in 2022. Why? Because if there is no sky and there are no limits except the ones that we set for ourselves, well, then that means that we don't cancel things. We just move them to a time that works better. We don't let things come in and say, oh, well, nope, I got to cancel it. So space is limited and you want to do that. You want to sign up because we do have some limited space and we do have a payment plan. So please make sure that you also go to our Facebook page and check out our Dubai trip that we're going to have. It is going to be awesome. You will receive a flavor of what you would get in the Ascension Academy. The Ascension Academy is 90 days. It's 3 months and it's intensive. But for this retreat, you will get you'll get a pretty good taste of that, and you're going to have a lot of fun because it's a real retreat. You're not sitting in a classroom all day long. You are literally having some fun in the morning, and then we do a little bit of our ascending, and we do a little bit of our empowerment, our women's empowerment, and then we have lunch, and then in the afternoon, it is fun on steroids. In the evening, it is fun on steroids. So you do not want to miss out on this. Thank you so much for your time. And Jacqueline Harris, I thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you for having me. And Queen, I just want to say to you, keep doing what you're doing. And believe you me, for the Queen's Roundtable, I'm here for you because you're doing a great work and you're allowing and bringing all these fantastic people. I mean, I've been listening and I've been watching and I've been listening, and all of these powerful women. And that's what we are here to do, is to empower one another. We are what the world needs right now. We are more than enough for whoever out there needs what we have. So thank you so much, Queen. I appreciate and honor you for this quarterly event. And I look forward to participating going forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Lulu. I really appreciate you. And, I appreciate all of your support. I know you've been a speaker before. I think you participated in a panel. So,
Yes.
So much appreciated. So much appreciated. And ladies, we're going to go ahead and conclude this session of A Queen's Roundtable Quarterly Symposium. I hope you got a lot out of what Miss Lulu had to say. I know I did. And those of you that are going to catch us on the replay, get you a pen and pad. All right, go back and listen to it. Or if you caught us in the middle, go back and listen to it from the beginning. All right, because it's a lot of valuable information. So again, I'm your host, Jacqueline Harrison. I am your host of this event. So don't go anywhere. We have another powerhouse that is going to give you some definite tools and tips that you're going to want to be able to write them down. Okay, that can help you scale your business. So thank you again, Lulu, and we'll talk again soon. And don't go anywhere, ladies. We'll be right back. Okay, take care, everybody.